fact of the matter is, Jones is indeed being tested. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Fact of the Matter. Today I'm joined by Goose and Taco, and today we're going to be talking about the prelims to UFC 300. Let's just dive right in, guys. Deiveson Figuereido versus Cody Garbrandt.
Damn, starting off with a banger, huh?
Starting off with a banger. Let me start this off. So, looking at this fight, it's Figgy's second fight at the at bantamweight, and it's Cody Garbrandt. He's been here forever, and he honestly should be retired by now. But that's just a personal opinion. But Cody Garbrandt doesn't necessarily have the best chin in the world. Figgy has a lot of power. However, Garbrandt does have better defense, and Figgy is pretty predictable with how he's going to throw, which makes this a bit of a harder fight to predict. However, I do think Figgy has enough power to the point where he will probably hurt Cody Garbrandt at one point in this fight. I am predicting Deiveson Figuereido by, I'm going to say, second round KO/TKO. I do think it's going to be hard, as Cody's footwork is very good, and he's very good defensively. But he does tend to get hit once in this fight, and usually when he gets hit, he does not get back up. Tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree for the most part. I think it could be a bit of a toss-up, this one. They both have quite a bit of power, and they both can be quite fast strikers. But I think the main advantage Figgy has over Cody is the grappling. I think if it gets to the ground, I think Figgy will definitely get a submission eventually, especially if he hurts Cody first, and if he goes for grappling right after. I think it could almost be a wrap, even though Cody has some decent wrestling that he showed against Trevin Jones, but I mean, he didn't do anything with it. So I think a submission is very likely for Figgy, but as you said, he can be touched up, and he has been touched up by pretty good boxers at flyweight, and now he's moving up to bantamweight against Cody. Cody has very fast hands, good footwork, but I think the main difference in the striking, at least, while it is very close, I think Cody doesn't have a chin, and I think his defense used to be very good, especially like it peaked on the Cruz fight. But ever since then, even in his last fight, he won, right? And everyone's like, oh, he's coming back again, let's go. But he was still feeling himself a bit vulnerable for counters that I think a better striker like Figgy would probably take advantage of. So, final pick, I think Figgy's going to do it via, I'm going to say a submission. Round 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if he just knocks him out. So I'll say finish round 2. I'll cheat a little bit.
Yeah.
So, Taco, what do you think?
I think you guys are being a little bit too nice to Cody, I think. I'm not going to lie. Cody's last fight was the match made by the sweepstakes winner, and they felt very sad that he was on his losing streak, so they gave him Brian Kelleher as his layup. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have Figgy entering this division. He versed arguably one of the best boxers in the division with Rob Font. He's a crispy boxer, and he passed the test. He showed really well in that fight. He showed that his power has translated pretty well. Probably not as effectively against the flyweights, obviously, because those are tiny people. Now he's versing people a little bit more his size and to his weight, which won't translate to knockouts as much, but still, he looks like a menacing person, and he's been giving Cody now. Cody just went from Brian Kelleher to Figgy. I don't trust this at all. Figgy's got the power. Cody sometimes has this idea that he thinks he can trade with people. He just can't. His chin is just not trading. I think he's going to get caught in the first round. I think it's not good for him.
One thing that worries me with Figgy is mainly his activity. If you look at his last fight, he was kind of picking and choosing his fight. his shots. With Cody, you really don't need to. So I hope he goes in and is more active. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, no, I don't know if I think he needs to be more active, to be honest. As long as he picks the right shots, I think he will probably land big. And I think, Taka, you mentioned it. Right off the bat, trading is probably Cody's biggest weakness, right? And I think Figgy will probably have a big edge in there. He does get touched up, but again, maybe we were too nice, honestly. I'm not. I was just trying to see how Cody could win, but honestly, I think it's mostly Figgy. Figgy's fight to win. So
yeah.
Right. So moving on to another fight, Bobby Green against Jim Miller. The fans asked for it, and the UFC delivered. We wanted Jim Miller at UFC 300 to complete his run at UFC 100 and UFC 200, and what a cherry on top to his career, honestly. But I think, honestly, I'm not super happy with this matchup, though, because I'm not sure if Jim Miller will be able to win. I don't know if he will be able to run away with that cherry on top. Bobby Green is a tough matchup, and yes, he's a veteran. Yes, he got knocked out in his last fight. But if you look at his recent fights of both guys, Bobby Green has been able to stay afloat with a bit tougher competition than Jim Miller has. And Jim Miller has had some good stoppages, some good victories, but they were all against pretty low competition. And he has also lost to that level of, that low level fighters. So Bobby Green actually has been fighting close to ranked guys, and he has been doing pretty well. His speed is still there. His power is still there. He still has footwork and unorthodox head movement and striking. And I think that could give Jim Miller problems. I think Miller's path to victory is grappling, but I worry that he'll get hurt a bit too often to really capitalize off that. So my final pick, I think Bobby Green will get it done via decision. But I don't know if it will be a happy end for Jim Miller's career. So what do you think?
You've hit some directly on the nail points that I had. Good points about the competitions. That Jim. I think for me, Jim. People who are betting on Jim here, definitely they're gunning the first round, because I don't think anyone can gun for Jim in the second or third. He hasn't really shown to be able to be trusted in those latter rounds now. The Alex Hernandez fight is just what I'm immediately thinking of there. But I definitely think Bobby Green is fighting better opponents. He's showing still, as much as I hate on him a lot more all the time, I do trust him in this fight for sure, with his just very traditional boxing, with his jabs and all that kind of stuff. I think he is going to be able to get a decision here. I don't think he's going to finish the GOAT, Jim Miller. Sad that, Bruce Buffer hasn't accepted Jim's proposal for being introduced as Jim fucking Miller. But, you got to do what you got to do, man. But yeah, I agree. Everything, you kind of just stole my points, I feel. But no, I agree, and I think you kind of got that shock win over Grant Dawson and the layup with Tony with Bobby Green. But I think this is kind of in the same vein that he's getting with someone who probably isn't to his level, and I hope next fight Bobby Green gets someone that's a little bit more of a challenge for him, I would guess. But I definitely have Bobby Green here winning in the latter rounds, maybe a finish or probably a decision. I think Jim Miller shouldn't be counted out though in the first round at least. I do think he does have the ability to cause a lot of chaos in the early rounds he's shown, and he does have submission and KO ability. But like you said, the KO ability that he's shown recently is at much lower level competition, and even in cases where he has fought the lower level of competition, he has lost, and he's looking a little bit slower now, obviously, with his old age. Off to you, Jackson.
Yeah, I will say Goose, I think you were pretty light with what happened to Bobby Green. He didn't get knocked out. He was murdered in the cage.
Good point. Good point. Dan
might
Magliota, Jesus.
that was probably the worst stoppage I've ever seen. But getting into the fight, you guys nailed all the points. Level of competition isn't as good. Bobby Green's been fighting better competition. I also think his striking is pretty good. I think he's probably going to hit and hurt Jim Miller this fight. And while this is Jim Miller's retirement fight, and we all want that Robbie Lawler finish to retirement, I don't think this is happening this time. I think he's getting a little too old for this. This is, I think, been confirmed to be his retirement fight. And when I look at Bobby Green stylistically, I think he just touches him up for probably 3 rounds. I do think Jim Miller can maybe win round 1, but I honestly don't even see Jim Miller taking Bobby Green down. I think Bobby Green he's got some decent takedown defense. We saw Islam have to really work to take down Bobby Green. We've seen other people kind of have to work really hard to take Bobby Green down. And looking at that, I just don't think Jim Miller's going to be able to take him down. And I would favor Bobby Green in the striking. So I'm going to say, I originally had Bobby Green by second round KO/TKO, but I'm kind of, after more research, I don't think Bobby Green necessarily has the power to finish Jim Miller, so I'm probably going to go by unanimous decision.
Yeah, and Jim Miller he's pretty durable too. Like in his last couple of fights, he hasn't been finished either. Like even in his losses. So, yeah. I think, but I think so far we've all chosen the same fighter both fights, but I think that's about to change.
Ooh,
maybe. Taco, you're up. Let's give us your breakdown of Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez.
So, kind of with me, I find this a pretty difficult fight to pick. I'm not massive on either one. We got Jessica Andrade coming off the layup that was Mackenzie Dern, in my opinion, and her very subpar striking. However, I'm very worried with Marina Rodriguez. I think, for me, a fight that's ringing in my head is the Lemos fight. You can see she's very, very worried when she's fighting an opponent that does possess power. I mean, Lemos is, I would argue, up there with one of the best in terms of power for female divisions, and in that division for sure. And so I'm worried that if she takes that approach with Andrade, she allows her to get onto the cage. I think we're going to see a very similar kind of finish there. I just really don't see the way that that Marina is using her natural advantage as well in most of her fights, and especially in a fight that she is going to be fighting Andrade, who is going to be I'm pretty sure she does have the shorter reach in this fight as well.
Marina does?
Yeah, Marina. Yeah,
wow.
No, Andrade. Yeah,
and
Andrade is a lot shorter as well. So I haven't seen her ever use that to her abilities very well, and I think it is going to be a hard one to call, but I think, in my opinion, it is on Andrade's corner. Yeah, it is for her fight to win or lose. Hopefully she comes in there with the dog in her. It's very hard to call with Andrade fights, especially when she did go through that full losing skit, which wasn't really the best. The 3-inch reach advantage, so not as much as I expected, but still, I think I'm going to back the Andrade here and hopefully get a vintage kind of TKO kind of on the fence. Very similar to the Lemos fight is what I'm predicting in this one, but very hard to call in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I understand. It was, looking at those fights, Andrade is a bully type of fighter where she likes to put her will on her opponents. And when she can't do that is usually when she loses. And then when you look at Marina Rodriguez, She, as you said, kind of likes to back up, doesn't like to put. He's kind of worried when she's fighting. However, Andrade does leave herself open a lot, and that worries me in this fight. Leaving herself wide open is not, it's not good, especially since her chin has deteriorated. I mean, I believe she got rocked by Dern at one point in her fight, and she's been rocked in all of her other fights, even against people who are mainly grapplers. So I look at this, and I think if Andrade can apply her will onto Maria, I think she will win. However, I'm probably going to say that Maria is going to get a clean hit in the second round, and I think that's going to hurt Andrade, and I think she will finish her. Ooh. Goose, what do you think?
Yeah, no, honestly, pretty similar to your prediction. I do understand why Jessica Andrade is the favorite, or at least last time I checked. Obviously, a lot of people know her. She has a lot of knockouts at strawweight and multiple weight classes, really. She has a lot of power. She's a vet, but her style has always relied on taking big shots and taking one to land one and winning the exchange, outgunning their opponents, or her opponents. So lately, though, that has started to backfire. She doesn't have the same durability she used to have, and I'm just not confident. I mean, as you said, I don't think Dern really rocked Andrade, but she definitely tagged her, and it stung. You could tell it stung Andrade. And I'm just pretty worried. Like, she has been on a skid against grapplers, sure, but I mean, the fact that Yan Xiaonan, we'll talk about her later, but she does not have power. All of her wins are via decision. And she knocked her out with like one punch, and it was mostly because of Andrade's own poor footwork in her aggression. And I think something similar will happen with Marina Rodriguez, because she has better striking and more power than Yan Xiaonan. So I think she will be easier to pressure, especially because of her footwork. So Andrade still has a chance, especially with body shots and mixing it from to the body and then to the head, body, head. I think that's a good chance for Jessica, but at this point in her career, I cannot really pick her confidently. So I'm going to go with Marina via, I'm going to say round 2.
I just wanted to interject something there. So I agree with a lot of good points that you guys have brought up. I would say, if I would add to your points, if anything, I would also say the Erin Blanchfield kind of thing. Like Andrade lost that first round on the feet against Erin Blanchfield. It's aged like milk after the Fiore fight as well. 100%. But if I want to make my clarification, is the reason I kind of went more to the stylistic is just because I have so much like with the asterisks of like the recent opponents and like exactly like the Erin Blanchfield thing, and then you can go to the other end of Marina Rodriguez and point out all the stuff with her as well. And the Xiaonan fight, the Lemos fight. And so I kind of just think they're both not in the great headspace in recent times in form of that. And so if I look at it from the more stylistic point of view, you got length, you got the more distance fighter, but she actually doesn't really do well with the distance fighting, to be completely honest. Marina versus the very bully nature, like Jackson mentioned, of Andrade. I don't really trust Marina to get that counter shot. I don't really feel like I've seen her really outshine in that with her counter striking as much compared to Andrade being able to impose that will, and then the times that has backfired on her. So I do think there is a hefty chance that Marina does win. Like you guys say, I just think I've got a little bit more confidence in Andrade.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Honestly, I could totally see that, especially like if she doesn't pull the trigger quick enough. And I guess adding to your point in turn, we also have to keep in mind that the Erin Blanchfield fight, it was like a week short notice for Andrade. And Tatiana Suarez is like, she's huge for the
I'm not
division. She's a
mentioning that.
huge
Yeah.
wrestler. So we can't. I don't. Maybe we're being a bit too harsh on her recent losses, but
Mhm.
I mean the fact that how she performed against Erin and Yan Xiaonan, it still doesn't give me too much confidence in her durability more than anything. So I think it's an interesting match for sure, but I don't know.
Yeah.
For sure.
Last thing I will say is, in a lot of those losses, Andrade was going through a divorce, and her headspace wasn't in the best. She wasn't in space, but she seems to have gotten a bit better, especially with at least I think she's in a better headspace now.
For sure.
So I do think that increases her chances of winning. But let's get to the fight. Let's get to a fight that I am more interested in, at least.
Everyone.
Jalin Turner versus Renato Moicano. I like this fight because Money Moicano, he's a dog. Jalin Turner, killer of Bobby Green, but but I think this fight is pretty cut and dry. I think Jalin Turner is just too much of a hack at that weight class, being as tall as he is, as lanky as he is, and having as much power as he does is absurd. And with Moicano not necessarily having the best striking defense, and his wrestling not being as good as it really needs to be to take down Jalin Turner, with Jalin Turner having some actually decent grappling from what I've seen. He mainly, like when he subs people, he mainly focuses on it's usually after when they're hurt, but he does have he's got some good grappling that I've seen, and I do think he's going to hurt Moicano. And honestly, I think I will probably predict that this fight will end in the first round via a Jalin Turner KO/TKO.
Interesting. Yeah, no, honestly, at first I was debating who would be able to do it. I think Moicano is very good. He's underrated, in my opinion, a little bit underrated, and especially he'll probably have the biggest edge on the grappling. And I think he could even, if he has enough time to work with, he could even submit Jalin Turner. I do have one stat to share, I guess two, kind of. Jalin Turner is 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. Renato Moicano is 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. That's a 5-inch reach.
Oh my god!
For Jalin Turner.
Yeah.
With a 4-inch height advantage.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I think Jalin Turner will probably tag Renato Moicano, hurt him pretty bad. Renato Moicano will go to his game plan, grapple, and I think Turner's gonna submit him. I think he'll hurt him bad, but Moicano is durable, so I think he'll last just enough to get submitted. That's I think I could talk about this style a bit more, but that's what it all boils down to. So yeah, quick and easy. Taco, what do you think?
I agree with a lot of points you said. The freakish nature of Jalin Turner and how he makes lightweight is still a mystery to everyone. Yeah, but I think the Gamrot fight shows that Turner's got very pretty good takedown defense. He wasn't able to get controlled very long on the mat by Gamrot, and he really he showed that his lankiness is totally in his favor when it comes to his takedown defensive abilities. I think we see that Drew Dober fight for Moicano that he of course his grappling is definitely his best part of his game. Very reliable, dangerous. If he gets that takedown, you're in for a bad night. But yeah, that's going to be the story of the fight, in my opinion. It's going to be, can Moicano get a hold of Turner, and especially on his back by any chance? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Moicano has got pretty good striking. I don't think it's that bad, honestly. But if he's going to win through striking, it's going to just be through some pretty wild and weird biting down, having a lot of grip, and kind of trying to close the distance very quickly, kind of thing. But I don't think I've seen that from Moicano shown before, and I think it's a very hard kind of style for Moicano. I think Jalin Turner took a very he was probably very happy when he got this fight announcement. This is a fight that's definitely more in his for him than for Moicano. So I'm going to go with Moicano. No, not Moicano. Sorry, with Turner here for the distance. But I wouldn't put it past me if Moicano is able to maybe get a limb, maybe get into the back, that he could possibly get a finish and submit him. But that is a very tough call. That's a very tough challenge, and I'm not liking the confidence in that pick. So I think the more comfortable pick is definitely Turner for the decision.
Yeah.
Fair decision. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to finish Moicano, no.
Ooh.
All right.
For
that's
three very
fair.
different picks.
Yeah, no, we all picked Turner, but I think this one is understandable if we all pick Turner. He's just
Turner by different ways. One of us has him by KO, one of us has him by sub, and one of us has him by decision.
We'll see who's right. We'll see who's right.
Watch Moicano win, so we're going to be
money
like...
on it, boys.
Moicano wins via DQ or something.
Yeah, no, something by murder.
Moving on, though. We have the return of the GOAT, Diego Lopes, against Sodiq Yusuff. I'm very excited, but also very worried. I picked Diego Lopes initially to win via first-round submission. I mean, we have seen a bit of Yusuff's ground game, and I think the edge is clear for Lopes. But we also have seen a lot more from Sodiq Yusuff than Diego Lopes. And Lopes, I think he's definitely top 15 talent. Oh my God, I can't speak. I think he definitely has the skills to be in the top 15. He showed that against Evlev, of all people, who's about to get a title shot. However, even in his last fight, he got caught, and it worried me for a second, and because his approach is just guns blazing. It reminds me of Charles Oliveira, honestly. He's just super aggressive, and his striking is not as good as his grappling. And I think Sodiq Yusuff has such good striking. He has quite a few stoppages of the very slick and fast counters. And I think before Diego Lopes manages to get it to the ground, I think Sodiq Yusuff has a great opportunity to just sleep him in the first round. So I hope it doesn't happen because I like Diego a lot, but I think Yusuff's going to do it. Round 1, knockout.
Ooh, big call.
And I would go as far...
I'm assuming you're a massive Lopes fan.
I know. I really like Lopes. I know. But I would go as far to say that if you are betting on someone, Sodiq Yusuff is a really big underdog, and he should be the favorite. I think if you want to make a lot of money, this is probably one you should put a bit of money in, because people are very high on Lopes right now, and he has holes in his striking that Yusuff I think will be able to exploit if he doesn't get controlled first. So that's all I'll say.
That's very interesting, because literally the first line of my thing written here is like, this is the fight to avoid betting wise. Oh, because I think this is just really difficult to call. Lopes, like you said, there's not much to go off there. I think it's literally like less than 3 minutes or something like that for like outside of the the Mobstar fight. But like, it's really hard to like see like how he'll deal with it. I think Yusuff is I think he's got a lot of power, actually, in my opinion, and I do think his grappling is pretty underrated. But yeah, I would agree. That's Lopes' domain there. If I have to, I was going to say, yeah, I'm concerned with Sadiq's gas tank, especially after the Barbosa fight, but that was a 5-rounder. Still, if Lopes takes that high output approach, how will that transfer? I'm not too sure, but I'm not really looking forward to seeing that 3rd round there with Yusuff. However, I think if I'm going to take this, I'm slightly edging Lopez here. I think Lopez will be able to get that ground. I think he'll be able to take him down.
Pause.
I think he'll be able to impose himself a bit in that kind of. I don't think I'm going to see a finish here, honestly. And if we do see a finish, I would more likely see it from the Yusuf side than the Lopez side, if anything. But I'm just barely going with Lopez here by a decision, actually, of all things.
Yeah.
Spicy pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking at this fight a bit. This fight is interesting to me. So we look at the Barbosa fight. Yusuf almost finished him round 1. I mean, he had Barbosa almost dead. And you look at that fight, and I'm looking at it like, ugh. Maybe he can finish Lopez. As you said, Lopez does get hit a bunch, and all those other things. But one thing is, we haven't really seen him hurt. We haven't really seen Lopez hurt. So I can't. While he has a lot of power, and while he probably could hurt Lopez, we have not seen Lopez necessarily hurt. However, we have seen Yusuf's grappling, and Yusuf was being able to basically be taken down by Edson Barbosa at will.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about that, Edson Barbosa is able to take you down almost at will. And we look at Lopez. Lopez is more of a jiu-jitsu guy than a wrestler. However, I do think he can get it to the ground. As you said, Yusuf, he has some decent grappling where he can survive. However, with someone like Lopez, he has not fought a grappler like Lopez and had him on top of him. I do think that Lopez will survive the first round, and I do think in the second round, as you mentioned that cardio, I think Yusuf is going to slow down a bit, and I do think Lopez will take him down, and I think he will sub him round 2.
Interesting. Yeah.
Very sensible, honestly. I can't really blame y'all for picking Lopez, especially considering that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just worry how he opens.
Yeah,
I just worry how he opens, like his aggression, like pretty reckless striking, and then he
not trust his durability.
Listen,
we haven't seen it.
I think he's pretty durable, but he got stung pretty bad. Like, even wobbled. I think he was a bit hurt in his last fight. And the competition was on Sadiq Yusuf. I think Yusuf is just too powerful. And I don't know if, I don't know how durable you can be to take those shots cleanly without proper defense, which I think Lopez doesn't have.
Yeah, I don't remember him getting a wobble in this last fight.
Maybe it was like a very brief. He had good recovery. But,
okay, because I remember that fight lasting 30 seconds, and he just he knocked out his opponent. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes,
or
but
PKO.
I think it's more because like very good recovery. But he was definitely hurt. Maybe not wobbled, but he was a bit hurt.
All right, I could see that. Maybe that's going to be a fight I'm eyeing for. True Diego Lopez fan here. That's on you, Goose.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong.
He will remember this. That's the certain.
No. I love you, Lopez.
Anyway.
Right, time for a sleeper.
Fight. Yes. I agree. I think people are shitting on this fight too much.
I'm shitting on this fight.
Look,
yeah, I agree with you, Taco.
People who don't like watching the female fights. We got Holm versus Kayla Harrison. Look, I want to watch this fight purely because I'm very excited to see how Kayla Harrison looks in the UFC. Elephant in the room, the weight cut is incredibly worrying. This is 135 pounds. Yikes. Kayla is massive. She's probably going to look like death on this scale. That is definitely something everyone's going to be watching at the weigh-ins for certain. But I'm not really high and mighty on Holly. I kind of give her a lot of shit. She's pretty old right now, but I will say her takedown defense has still looked pretty good even in her most recent fights. However, takedown defense, we are dealing with Kayla, who is literally like a gold medal in judo. So obviously, we can't say that translates incredibly well into MMA, but she showed dominance in outside of the UFC, and I have a feeling that we're going to see kind of like a masterclass in judo, but within the ring. I think we're going to see her kind of just throwing Holly around, and I think we're going to see a little bit of the boring kind of cage stalling a little bit. Something to be a little bit expected in like a Holly Holm fight is that she is pretty hard to take down, and so if there's an avenue that you see a lot of people go for grappling against her, is that they have to push her on the fence pretty often. But I think it is a pretty hard fight to call. But like I said, Holly is just not someone I can get behind, especially at this age, and it is a risk to take, especially with that weight cut. But I am going to just go with Kayla via decision.
Yeah, interesting. I have an interesting opinion about this. So I agree with you, Taco, that this fight is overhated. But looking, I've told you guys already, I don't think this fight's even going to happen. Kayla Harris is very big, and Holly Holm said she wasn't going to accept the fight if she missed weight, and I think there is a 99.9% chance that she misses weight, so I do not think this fight is happening. However, I'm going to assume it's going to happen in this breakdown. While Holly Holmes is a bit hard to take down, she has been taken down a bit, and especially in her last fight. And when she gets to the ground, she's not necessarily the best. And looking at Kayla Harris, she's so big, and I think she probably could just manhandle Holly Holm to the ground with how much bigger she is, how much stronger she is. And we're looking at Kayla, who is gold medal in judo, as you said, Taco. And thinking about this fight, I am worried a bit about the weight cut, and if she does make it, I do think that chin is going to be a bit weaker than normal. As 135, she struggled to make 145. 135 is just, I don't know how she's going to do it. But looking at it, I do think she will probably weather the storm, and even if she gets hurt, I think she's going to take a shot and get Holly Holmes to the ground. And I think once it's on the ground, I think she'll recover a bit, and then I think she'll eventually get a sub.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Okay. When you guys talk about people shitting on this fight, that's definitely me. I'm one of them. I really could not care less about this fight, but if it does happen, I have to agree. It's hard to call, to be honest. Kayla Harrison already got fraud checked, though, in the PFL by Larissa Pacheco. And I think with the weight cut, it's very worrying. I think Holly Holm, even at this point of her career, could potentially finish Kayla Harrison. She's not really a finisher, but you just have to, generally speaking, with a big weight cut, you have to stop. So yeah, I'm not sure if Kayla Harrison will have enough durability to take Holly Holm's shots, even at this point of her career. And even though she's not much of a finisher, with that in mind, I think she could do it. I think she could get another upset against Judoka. So, but that being said, I think generally speaking, you usually want to take the weight bully wrestlers. They have such a big advantage, and if she survives the weight cut, she might be able to just go straight to wrestling and skipping the striking, where she is most vulnerable. So I'm going to go for the safe pick and choose Kayla Harrison by decision. But moving on back to the bangers. Bathroom break's over. Let's go.
All right, let's get into this one. This honestly, this one, Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. This has been This is the hardest one on the prelims, I believe, to predict. because we haven't seen enough from Kattar's grappling defense, and we haven't seen much with how much bigger Aljamain Sterling is. I think I saw somewhere he was walking around at 170, like 4, when he was fighting at bantamweight, which is crazy. So he's going to be even bigger. He honestly might be big enough to fight at lightweight with some of those numbers if he's having to lower himself down to 174 to fight at bantamweight. But looking at this fight, I think this has been a hard one. I think on the feet, Kattar definitely has an advantage. However, the one problem I've seen with Kattar is similar problem I had with Figgy is he doesn't throw a lot. And given that he doesn't throw a lot, I think it's going to be harder for him to necessarily knock out Aljamain Sterling. However, Alju does leave himself a bit open on the feet. But I believe that Aljamain Sterling's probably going to be able to take him down. At least I do think he is eventually going to take him down. And with this is where Kattar's being able to get up is kind of harder. We haven't seen enough from Kattar, and in the grappling at least. So when I look at this fight, I'm going to go with the safe pick. I'm going to go with Aljamain Sterling by decision. But I wouldn't be shocked if Kattar got a good punch and hurt Aljo and finished him.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely, this is a very hard fight to pick. We have Aljo Sterling on his first fight at this weight class, first fight as a featherweight, and boy, he's looking massive. He was already massive for a bantamweight, and I think he will still be a massive featherweight. That's what's crazy about this. So I literally just said with Kayla Harrison, you usually want to favor a weight bully wrestler, and I think he will definitely be a bigger guy than Calvin Kattar. That being said, Calvin Kattar, as the underdog, has very good chances. He's a slight underdog, and he is taller by, I think, 3 inches, and has a longer reach as well by 1 inch than Aljamain Sterling. I think in the striking, even though he's not much of a range striker, I think he'll still have a comfortable advantage. So it will really be up to Aljamain Sterling to close the gap safely. And he usually does that with very awkward and unorthodox volume. Against Petr Yan, that got him in trouble quite a few times. But, even against Petr Yan, he was actually pretty safe. He was getting hurt, but he was still about his wits. So his durability is a bit of a question mark. And Kattar hits hard. Very tough fight to pick. But I think, again, the safer pick is Aljamain Sterling via decision, because the way I could see Kattar knocking him out, or winning, is by knockout. And I think if he stuffs a takedown and so on, if he times the shots well and so on, I think he could catch Aljo. But I think it's less likely. Simple as that. I think Kattar will close the distance eventually and actually get to Kattar's hips. We haven't seen much of his takedown defense, but I think he'll eventually take him down and control him. So, reluctantly, I will pick Aljo via decision. Taco, what do you think?
Yes. Ooh, I think this is a great hard fight to call. When we're talking about the weight here, I don't think it's actually going to be a thing of concern. I think Aljo has always been someone who's cut a lot of weight. But he didn't really make it look too difficult to go down to bantamweight. So now seeing him at featherweight, I think he's going to look like a natural 145er as well. Like Jackson's talking about how he walks pretty, we're going to see him look like even more juiced, in my opinion, to the point that he looks sussy to everyone. I think he is sus. and in this fight, I think he's going to look
Shrunken
pretty
jacket.
jacked. Yeah, he's going to look jacked. When it comes to the fight itself, though, Kattar's got a 91% takedown defense rate, but that is very misleading. He hasn't really fought, I would say, too many wrestlers or people who are very aggressive with grappling. There's a beat fight comes up, but I think that's really far behind at this stage that we're talking here. I think it's going to rely on if Kattar can land the counter strike or be able to hit Aljo, because I think Kattar's got some very crispy boxing. He's got power in his hands as well. He can definitely do a very Sean O'Malley-esque catch him on his way and put him down. But I also see the flip side happening. I can definitely see if Aljo finally grabs a limb, I think it's going to be over. I think Aljo has shown his time and time again that he is probably one of the most if he grabs you, he's clingy. He's hold on to dear life, and he'll find his way to your back, and he'll just sit on the backpack. And I don't think we've seen Kattar in a position like that before, and it's very tough to make that call. However, I think if I'm going to have more confidence in something in this fight, I think I'm pretty more confident in Aljo coming in this fight with a much better game plan, with a better headspace, knowing that he's in a new division, he's reset, and he knows that if he gets a win here, he could line up a fight against Volkan. That would be a big fight, and he can line himself up for close to a title shot, honestly, because he's got quite a good legacy, quite a great resume, and I don't think it's over for him at this stage. And Kattar, I don't know if I think I can see Kattar getting to the top of the division at this stage with his abilities, with the people that he's got in front of him as well. I think Aljo's abilities have a lot more fun stylistic matchups, and I'm going to bank on Aljo here. I said decision here now, and I'm kind of regretting that. I think if I'm going to see Aljo win now, I'm kind of more now leaning towards the sub as well.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, you look at that Corey Sandhagen fight, he was able to get that back and get that rear naked choke he got that in very quickly. I believe Sandhagen was hurt before that, so it kind of made it a little bit easier. However, as you said, Aljo's going to be so much bigger. He's obviously sucks. He's got Marab in his camp, who's EPO king over there. But
sus in what way?
EPO, more ways than one.
He's the machine, though. What do you mean?
He's a machine. But I will say, I will say there are some ways for Kattar to win. I do think if he can stop those takedowns, I wouldn't be shocked if he eventually knocks him out. But one problem with Kattar is he loves to just throw that one, and he likes to reset. Throw that one. Okay, now I can throw a combo. All right, let me reset. He's just constantly resetting. He has to be the one that throws first, and that's a problem I've seen. The fact that he has to be the one that throws first. He can't necessarily counter strike like that. I think it's going to be a little bit harder for him to throw that strike that knocks him out. I think he can do it as if he throws first while Aljo's going for a takedown, gets him on the chin, or just is able to time something. I think he can win. However, safe pick as both of you said. I think the safe pick is Aljo.
Yeah. Moving on though to one of the best fights of the entire card. Jiri Prochazka against Aleksandar Rakic. Wow. This could be, in my opinion, either a very good fight or a very boring one. And some of you may be wondering, what? Jiri Prochazka? Boring? What do you mean? Aleksandar Rakic, okay, if you look at his highlights, he has one great knockout, head kick, and then, wow, it just, I don't know, I think he's pretty boring, just a decision fighter at light heavyweight, where fighters usually have a lot of power, but I think, even though he's mainly a striker, I think, I worry with his ability to finish and actually hurt his opponents. The way he throws, I think his punches hurt, but I don't know if they have the proper form to actually knock out people as much. Or maybe it's just his lack of committal to his punches that makes them, not really finish people as often. So maybe he could get a comfortable decision against Jiri's, more reckless striking, just striking from distance and so on. But I do think Jiri's unorthodox striking very unpredictable in many ways. I think he will be able to tag Rakic and get a finish in the second round. And I'm partly basing this off of, neither guy has really fought a striker like the other, with the other's style. But Jan Blachowicz had quite a bit of success against Rakic with kind of unorthodox striking you don't really see often. And I just think Jiri Prochazka might be even more successful with that. And I doubted him with Poatan, and he did even better than I expected. Better defense, better head movement. There's just a lot Jiri Prochazka could do. The kicks might still be a problem from Rakic, but I think Jiri should get this done. What do you think, Taco?
Wow. Yeah, this is look, to me, there's the major unknown is Rakic is 2 years layoff off that injury. It's a big what if, like how he'll look. Like literally the last time he fought, Jiri was 6 months away from winning the belt, which is weird to think about. So I'm definitely a little bit hesitant with going the Rakic route. However, I think Prochazka's got that weird orthodox style, and Rakic has got that very point-based fighting. He's very elusive, in my opinion. He's very technical. I think he's pretty underrated as well, but I understand that he's had underwhelming fights that people have kind of started to shit on him for. But if I'm thinking of this fight, I think Rakic is going to be playing this incredibly safe, especially coming off that post-injury. And so I think it's a pretty hard call whether or not if Rakic will be able to have that kind of style for the 3 rounds. But if Jiri lands, I think, or connects, I don't think it's going to be good for Rakic. I think he could even put him out at the one shot, honestly. Jiri's showed to have that ability for people, I think. He's got that chaotic nature. But look, I don't know if I will think that it will happen. And I think that Rakic is going to play this incredibly safe to the point that it might be a bit boring, honestly. And I think Rakic is probably going to take it. But I'm not 100% confident in that. I would say it's about like a 65% confidence in Rakic. I think the other percent of confidence is me like basing on the fact that Jiri lands could be one and done.
Yeah. Looking at this fight, as you guys says, it's kind of a fight you're just like, maybe, I think because again, we haven't seen Rakic fight in 2 years. However, one thing I think you guys haven't been talking too much about is Jiri's grappling ability. Jiri could stand up. He stood up on Glover Teixeira almost every single time he got taken down. Now, Glover later in his career didn't necessarily have the best control. He wasn't able to control Jiri or Hill. However, if we look in those fights before that, he was able to control why am I forgetting? Thiago Santos. He was able to control Jan Blachowicz. He was able to control Anthony Smith. He was on the ground. He was able to control all of them, and then the first time he wasn't able to control the person was against Jiri. Now, looking at this fight, I do think Rakic will give him a bit of a hard time. However, to stand up, that is. However, I do think that Jiri can hurt him, and I think on the feet, I give Jiri a good advantage. His unorthodox movement is pretty hard to read. We even saw Pereira struggle a bit to read that movement. I don't think Rakic can. However, Rakic does have a chin. He was able to handle Polish power for 2 rounds before he got injured. But I do think that Jiri is I will probably favor Jiri. I think he can stand up, and I think he can land what he needs to win those fights.
Mm-hmm.
I am predicting. Let's go. I'm gonna say Jiri by 3rd round KO/TKO.
Interesting. Ooh.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I did forget to mention or like talk about Rakic. You know, his grappling because, like you guys mentioned, he did wrestle against Jan Blachowicz and kind of control him. But honestly, I'm not very convinced that it'll be super viable. Jan was able to attack off his back a little bit. Obviously not successfully, but I'm just not very confident in Rakic's ground game. But I don't know. Maybe he comes back from his long time layoff very aggressive with a better, like, refined skills and everything. That sometimes happens, but that injury is definitely worrisome. And usually people don't come back the same in a bad way.
And I also just want to point out, actually, now that I've just, like, you came in my head as well, Rakic has some really fantastic leg kicks.
Yes.
Very difficult to know, like, after the I think it was like the tear or something in his knee, right? It was like a tendon tear. But I think he will be hitting those leg kicks. And after that Pereira fight, Yuri's leg was busted. So
Yeah.
I think that'll also be a very good avenue for him to take. And Rakic, he definitely relies on a lot of his leg kicks to be able to, like, make it out the distance in his point fighting. And I know you guys have brought up his grappling and that stuff, but Rakic really doesn't take that route that often. His more, like, complaints of him having, like, very slow fights and never from a grappling perspective. It's because he takes the very easy, like, kind of point-based approach.
For sure.
So I don't really predict the idea of Rakic going for the grappling heavy approach again as well, especially seeing how Yuri is very competent and just really can get up from bottom very well.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
I think
fair.
he might if Jiri closes the distance, like, too recklessly, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe he doesn't need to, honestly.
Well, that's the prelims. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.